Us to get started. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we do now. Okay. Good morning. We will call this meeting to order. Thank you for your patience. Ms. Rebecca, if I can get you to call roll.
Chairwoman Kaylin Paxson.
Present.
Board members Roland Barrera. He is absent. Sylvia Campos.
WebEx.
Okay, can we see it? There you are. Okay, Ms. Campos is here. Eric Cantu is absent. Brent Chesney. Paulette Guajardo.
Present.
Gil Hernandez is absent. John Mattis, absent. Mike Pesley. Everett Roy is absent. Connie Scott. Here. Mark Scott. Here. Carolyn Bond. Here. Okay, we do have a quorum present to conduct the meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Rebecca. At this time, we'll move on to item C, which is public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make public comment this morning? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Rebecca, have you received any virtually?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes from any members present? Okay, if none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
And a second. All in favor?
Second. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next, we have the financial report. And I will ask staff at this time. Good morning, Sergio.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Included in your agenda packet are the unaudited financials as of May 31st, 2025. I do have a brief presentation for you on budget to actuals, as well as a schedule of cash flows for future commitments and a listing of those commitments. And so if we get the presentation, jumping right into it here, as soon as they pop it up. Okay, jumping into slide number 2 here, we have our budget to actuals comparison as of May 31st, 2025. Jumping on down to your amended budget column for total revenues. Total revenues budget as of, for the fiscal year amount to $6.4 million. Actuals as of May 31st amount to $6.3. This leaves about $93,000 of revenues pending to be earned. As of May, 98.5% of the budget has been met. Moving on down to total expenditures, the amended budget for fiscal year 2025. Total expenditures were budgeted at $14.1 million. Actuals as of May 31st amounted to about $12.9 million. This leaves about $1.2 million pending to be spent. 91% of the budget has been consumed. And jumping to your bottom line here, any fund balance for the fiscal year, the estimated fund balance was projected to be at $3.3 million. The current fund balance as of May 31st amounts to about $4.5 million. I'll take any questions on the financials at this time.
Okay, thank you so much, Sergio. Do we have any questions from the board? No? Okay, at this time, I see no questions. Thank you so much for that presentation. And we'll move on to item G, which is our agenda item. And the first here is the resolution approving the proposed fiscal.
I do have more slides unless you want me to not continue.
Figured you had it all in that one. So. Yeah. Okay, yes, I apologize. Okay. I thought you said you were finished. Go ahead.
No worries. Okay, jumping to our schedule of future funds available for future commitments. We start with the fiscal year 2025 row. And looking at your beginning fund balance, we have a total of $10.5 million as a beginning fund balance. And what that consists of is your actual fund balance of $4.5 million as of May 31st, 2025. And we have about $5.9 million in our capital reserve included in there. And the reason being, we do have capital commitments, which are transfers to our CIP fund in future years. And so in order for this worksheet to be accurate, we definitely need to include that reserve in there. And so coming back to row fiscal year 2025, your beginning fund balance of 10.5, we have estimated revenues pending to be earned of about $93,000. We do estimate a future incentive here in fiscal year 2025 to be paid out of about $588,620. We do have a capital commitment pending of transfer over to our CIP fund of $970,000, and we do have admin and other expenditures of $311,000. At the end of the fiscal year, we believe we have about $8.7 million available funds available for future commitments. Jumping back over to your beginning fund balance column, looking at fiscal year 2026 through 2029, you can see your beginning fund balance begins to be depleted, which is a good thing, showing that the funds are being spent on these projects. Jumping over to your estimated revenue column over the next 3 fiscal years, we do keep those flat to be conservative. And we do have, moving over to our future incentives, we have incentives ranging from $3 million to up to $5 million in 2028. And we continue over to our capital commitment columns. We show capital improvements for future fiscal years of 4.8, 5.4, 3.6 million. And then we have admin and other expenditures that we'll show here in the future slides. At the end of the day, your fund balance will go from about roughly 6.8 million funds available for commitments to about 1.7 million in fiscal year 2029. Next slide over, we have our project-specific development commitments, and here these projects will be expensed as those projects drive a growth in the tax increment for this area. We have a total of about 23.2 million committed, with about 13.6 designated for Lake Padre LLC, and 9.6 committed to Ashlar interest. And so here I just want to have a correction on our footnotes. For the preserved community walking trail, the preserved ponds interconnectivity, and the Aquarius Canal Walk. Footnote A is not applicable to those three. That footnote talks about reduction in those projects. Later on in this agenda, those are not part of that. And so just please ignore that footnote for now for those three projects. Next, we have our reinvestment zone number 2 commitments, which are our economic development incentives here of about 20 million. And so here we have about 4.2 million committed to Lake Padre for the golf cart path and bridge and pedestrian bridges. And then to Ashlar Interest LLC, we have about 15.9 committed for the Commodore's Mobility Bridge in Cantada Avenue, the public mobility bridge at Park Road 22, and the Whitecap effluent line to preserve ponds. Next slide over, we have our capital commitments, which is our capital projects for the city here. We have about a total of 20.4 million committed over the next 4 years, and those projects include paper streets, 11.5 million for North Padre Island seawall improvements, about 3.9 million for the Parker Channel capital repairs, and 970,000 for the Force Main bypass project. And lastly, we have our administration services and other expenditures. Here we have about a total of 2 million being transferred over the next 5 years. And we have a flat transfer over to our general fund for administrative services of about 186,000. Here we include also our Packery Channel maintenance, with starting at 250,000 in 2025 with a 5-year incremental growth to set aside funds for maintenance. And then we have a nominal of $5,000 for management professional services, which is related to a software the TIRZ uses. And last slide is our reinvestment zone number 2 capital improvement projects. A total of 34.5 million is currently budgeted in the capital improvement projects fund. Expenditures to date amount to about 15.3 million, and this leaves a pending to be spent of about 19.1 million for ongoing projects. This concludes my presentation, and I'll take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Sergio. Okay, board member Chesney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I'm going to reiterate the comment that I made at the last meeting. I'm still not seeing any language on these presentations that indicates that these are reimbursements for public improvements that we are making for public improvements. We keep saying development. We are not giving the developer anything. We are reimbursing the developer for public improvements made. So it again asks staff to continue to look at the language that they put on the backup, because all that the public sees sometimes is what's posted as backup. And I don't think we're clearly articulating what we're doing, which is we are building public improvements. And then I would also ask, just as a kind of a courtesy going forward, since most of the projects, and we would do the same thing, obviously, with the Briscoe King, I would hope there would be some acknowledgement somewhere in these projects that even though these are city projects, that the county is participating in this TIRZ, and these are county funds that are helping with these city projects. So maybe, especially on some, and you went through them real quick, and I don't have one in particular, but like on Briscoe King, we would certainly put like a plaque up that says, partially funded by the city of Corpus Christi in partnership. Just some acknowledgement that the county is involved in this TIRZ, because I don't think a lot of people realize that county funds have gone into paying for the Packard Channel, for example, for the last 20 years, and are going to be helping subsidize a lot of city projects, which again, that's part of what the TIRZ is, and we appreciate the city helping subsidize a county project with Briscoe King, and we would, again, be doing that as well. So just some sort of acknowledgement in all of this that this is city and county funds participating in this, and that these are public that we're reimbursing for public access for public projects. We're not giving a developer money, but it's how it comes across in the presentation to me. So just would reiterate and kind of beat that dead horse, and just general comments on that. So that was it.
Thank you for bringing those back up,
Yes, ma'am.
Board Member Chesney. I know we did talk about those last meeting, and so thank you for refreshing us on that. If staff here can try to work going forward to make sure that both of these comments are acknowledged. I know Joe's usually here somewhere.
Need to make a motion to direct. We can. I just really want to be more clear with the public on what we're doing, and because I think we're doing a lot of great things, and the public just needs to know we're not giving this developer anything. We're just reimbursing them for the fact that they're doing our work for us. They're really building this infrastructure, and then we're just reimbursing when they provide the service. So thank you.
Yes, sir. And did I hear you needed to make a?
I'm happy to do that if we want to make a motion,
Okay.
but I'll let everybody else.
I have another comment here, but we can come back to that.
Sure,
Thank
however you want to do it.
Okay. Board Member Guajardo.
Thank you. I don't know if we need, I think staff, y'all are taking the direction. Staff?
Yes, yeah, we'll make some changes to
Yeah.
the verbiage and the presentation to
Yeah.
make sure we highlight all the participants and promote that it is public improvements are being done.
Great. And I just want to make a comment. I think that's a very, very good point. And I think what we can do outside of just, correcting it in that document is we should probably, Peter, do, when there could be, a message or a memo or a news release that goes out that says the city, the county, and we basically include everybody that was part of this, because people don't understand, what's a TIRZ, right? So it's more of a partnership, because, these, like you said, I think it does go understated, not purposely, but it does. And people do need to know that the county funding is a huge part of these amazing, infrastructure improvements, public improvements. So I think that's a big deal. And I think we even brought that up. Sometimes we forget, Terrence, that's what it was, at Flower Bluff, the Business Association meeting. I made it a point to say, we need to remember to tell everyone that a lot of this is for public use. And of course, what makes that possible is all of the parties involved. So I think we can find even more ways to let the public know that all of this funding, where all the funding comes from. So, yeah, good point, Commissioner.
Thank you, committee member. Okay. So you'd like to?
It's just the second time I've asked to do it. Haven't seen it yet, so if they'll just go ahead and do it, that'd be great.
And duly noted, because it is the second time. So if we can have some assurance, I think that's what Board Member Chesney's asking for, that we can take note of that, make sure that it gets in the black and white as well, and begin designs on how we can fully celebrate our partner with the county.
Yeah, definitely. I've made a note for sure to get it corrected for next time.
Thank you, Sergio. Okay, I have Board Member Pusley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to go along with Commissioner Chesney's comments, I think at the last meeting, which was not this TIRZ meeting, but one before, that I also asked that on a go-forward basis that we, in our financial reports, represent the percentage of participation by each entity that's involved in these projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member.
Excuse me, Chairwoman, I'm sorry. Was that Commissioner Pusley, you said what? The participation per project or per the TIRZ?
Per entity.
Per entity?
Yes, their
Okay.
percentage of participation.
Right, like a pie chart even? Yeah. Yeah. Right.
In some instances, Del Mar College is still.
Okay. Yes, sir. Okay, just want to make sure I got it. Thank you.
And thank you for those comments. Okay, do we have any other comments for Sergio on the financial reports? All right, now I think we're good. Thank you,
Okay,
Sergio.
thank you.
Moving on to Section G, our first item is the resolution approving the proposed fiscal year 2025 tax increment zone number 2 operating budget. Arturo, are you presenting
Actually,
this one?
the item should be the white cap resolution.
I have the budget as first. Before we do, are you wanting to do the white cap first presentation?
Yeah, if we could, that'd be great.
If, before we do that motion, I would like to rearrange a little bit and skip down to item 5, which is the presentation, the update on the Encantada Water Exchange.
Okay.
If we can do that before your white cap one.
Okay, sounds good.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairwoman Paxton, board members, Jeff Coyne, LJA Engineering. If we could get the presentation brought up, I'd like to run through that. If you recall, at the last TIRZ 2 meeting, there was a lot of discussion on the Encantada Water Exchange, and so I offered to prepare a presentation kind of showing some options on what could be done there and what might not be a good idea to do there as well. So running through this presentation, if you, next slide, please. Just short kind of introduction to where this is, in case somebody doesn't know. The vicinity map on the left shows a general layout of Padre Island, so that's over the JFK Causeway, of course, and then as you're headed south to the, down to the National Seashore, you go through Whitecap Boulevard. You'll see the Whitecap development there is up on the top of the page, and then Encantada is about a mile south of that. So on the right is a blow-up of the Encantada water connection or exchange there. You'll notice the stakeholders in the area. We have the St. Andrews by the Sea Catholic Church. We've got the Seashore School Systems. They've got multiple buildings there. There's a multifamily apartment complex there. And there's also, in the immediate vicinity of the exchange, are some single-family residences there, and a PIPOA boat ramp. Next slide, please. So currently, the existing conditions are 2 36-inch reinforced concrete pipe culverts. They are 2/3 silted full. So the capacity of those culverts is very limited right now. And what that really means and why that's happened is that when they were originally constructed, the sea level or the sea floor was about 2 feet lower, and it's silted up over the decades to the magnitude of 2 feet. So those culverts are very clogged in there. We explored, and I'll get into detail on these 3 options through this presentation, but option 1 is to simply go in there and clean those culverts out, and then also do some minor dredging to the north and the south on the canal system to make sure that it does not silt up in the short term. And option 2, we would look at removing those culverts and replacing them with box culverts, so bigger culverts that would provide more water circulation through there. Option 3 was the option that I mentioned last time we wouldn't recommend, which is a bridge structure. And we'll get into some of those reasons here in this presentation. Next slide, please. Option 1 is shown here. You've got the dual 36-inch culverts. You can kind of see in proximity there the single-family homes. There's a driveway to one of them that accesses off Encantada. That's on the top left there. That's going to be one we talk about being in conflict with the bridge. Next slide, please. This shows a cross-section of option 1 and what that would look like. Okay, so what I want you to focus on this slide is the dark blue area. The bottom of that is where the canal is today. And the red dash line is where it used to be. So we would go in there and dredge that out and then dredge the canal system a little bit each direction to maintain that depth. So that would be the extent of option 1. And it is worth noting that there is, and dredging in those canals is a permittable action by the Corps of Engineers. So luckily, that permit exists already today. The PIPOA owns it. So there had to be like a memorandum of understanding with them to go do that work. Whoever's doing that work would have to be in conjunction with them. Okay, option 2. This shows the box culverts. The dashed black lines there represent the larger, what could be box culverts under the roadway. And to focus on here, the shaded tan area would be the project limits of such a project. So we would have to reconstruct that road all the way to those limits, noticing that it does encroach a little bit on the driveway, but not to the intersections on Cruiser and Cuddy Sark. Next slide, please. And this is then a profile view of it. And the reason the extent of that project would go so far was that we could actually get kayak clearance under there with about a 5 to 5.5 foot clearance underneath the box culverts if we put a small vertical curve in there. And that's represented by the green shaded area up there. So this would be a viable option to increase water exchange and create kayaks, very small boats, and canoe connectivity to both sides of the canal. Next slide, please. So option 3 was the bridge option again. And you'll notice with this layout, this is to achieve a clearance similar in height to Whitecap and Gypsy bridges. So where the boats can get under now, a bridge of this magnitude would require going through the intersections and through the driveway to the extent shown in the tan area. And next slide, please. And this better represents the problem. So the driveway, the new roadway would be 6 feet higher than that existing driveway. Currently is, making it unfeasible to be there. So you would have to approach that landowner and tell them that they could no longer have a driveway access off Encantada. And they do have access off Cuddy Sark, but this driveway that's shown here goes directly into their garage. So it'd be almost kind of impractical to make them go around their own driveway. So additionally, and a larger issue is you've got a 3 to 4 foot vertical separation on the intersections there. So as you can imagine, if you're raising those intersections 3 to 4 feet, now you're going to have retaining walls around all 4 corners of that intersection. So it's very impractical, and it would actually be problematic to your future mobility plan that you're going to hear about later on. Next slide, please. So this was just a little summary. I'll run through it quickly, and then we'll kind of open it up for discussion. But so pros and cons of each. The water circulation, very limited, even with option 1. If we do clean those culverts, it's still just small cross-sectional area flow. Option 2 increases that area by about 400% with the box culverts. And option 3 does also include increased in water circulation, probably around 900%, so it's pretty substantial there. The posted speed limit, all of these can be designed and achieved with the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit that's there. Safe sight distance, so this is one I really wanted to touch on. Option 1 is no issue. You're not changing anything out there with option 1. Option 2, you're only raising it slightly, maybe a foot or 2, so there's really no sight distance issues. Option 3, I put an X on that. It can be achieved with the distance we showed and the TxDOT standards for maximum vertical curves and everything for this speed limit, but this is a highly traveled area. You got kids going to school, church, you know, I wouldn't design it, to be quite honest with you. I wouldn't want that if you can imagine, as you're approaching this, you've got a bridge hump to get over, and you could have kids and potential on the other side that could be in conflict, so that's one of the main reasons we wouldn't recommend that. So boat passage allowed, of course, not with option 1 through the culverts, not really with option 2. You would be able to get boat traffic under option 3. Kayaks, not allowed with 1, but would be 2 and 3. And then the connections to the 2 intersections in the driveway, of course, options 1 and 2 allow for that. There's no conflict there. Option 3 creates those challenges with the elevation differences. Construction costs, of course, option 1 being the lowest, option 2 would be a medium level construction project. Option 3, the bridge would be the highest. And then we talked, you know, it's one thing to design these things and draw them up, and yes, they work, but how do they get built, right? So construction difficulty is worth talking about. When you're building a bridge, let's start with that one. That's the highest level of difficulty there. You've got deep piles that you've got to get in the ground. There's houses within 70 feet of that location. So if you can imagine driving with a pneumatic hammer deep piles down multiple times, it's just, you'd probably damage those houses, to be quite honest with you. So there's some issues with building in close proximity to those existing residences. Option 2 is still medium. I mean, you're going to have to dig out that entire roadway and put box culverts in, so that's not an easy task, but it's a lot easier than a bridge. The last one's definitely worth noting. So it's accessibility for the public, traveling public. Option 1, there's no issue there. There's really no impact, maybe daytime closures, and that's it. Option 2, you're going to have to close that to vehicles. Contractors I've talked to said you could maintain a temporary path for golf carts, pedestrians maybe through there, but not vehicles while you're installing those boxes. And option 3, you're looking at a full closure for 6 to 8 months to everybody. So, and with that, that concludes my presentation. I'll answer any questions if you have.
Thank you very much, Jeff. That was a great presentation. And I have a couple of questions here, but just for my clarification, with the request that's coming up for the budget amendment to the Encantada Bridge, that is in favor of option 2?
Option 1.
Option 1,
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for that. I have Committee Member Scott.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Reminds me of the Harbor Bridge days when one of the alternatives was to swing out in the bay and go all the way around North Beach, and you went, yeah, no. It's kind of
Not
like
a good
the
idea.
bridge is kind of one of those, yeah, no. How long to do option 2? How long would that take, and how long would,
6 to 8 months.
and traffic would be closed for all 6 to 8 months, you
Yes.
think, except for the?
Yes, you might be able to accelerate that a month or two, but the real reason for closing it to traffic, to get boxes of that size in there, you're going to need heavy equipment, big, large excavators. And when those pieces of equipment swing around, there's just not enough room to maintain traffic. They would just be impeding with traffic. And you could do a temporary road, like I said, for the
Yes.
golf carts and peds, but not for traffic.
I would assume that the water quality would be far superior on the box culverts than just replacing existing culverts. In other words,
Yes.
if I live up against that bridge today, I would be uncomfortable in the box culvert, but the end result would probably be better water experience.
Yes, sir. And you get, the main problem is they're submerged. Whether they're clogged or not, it doesn't matter, they're still under the water. So when you have what we call air draft, whether it's a foot or 10 feet, everything can flow more fluid through there.
I was
So you
wondering,
get a lot better
I was
circulation.
trying to remember if there was another connection point with the Cruiser Canal. So I looked up Google Earth, and it says that there's like land between that bridge and about, 4 blocks north. So Google Earth says there is no water in there, which means the water quality is really poor.
It is.
Will it, I don't know the words, will it just the flow help, will it scour itself? Will it clean out that
So
portion north of the
when the
bridge?
canal system was open, those 36s were flowing. We observed a little bit of movement through there, but there wasn't really any big clearing or anything like you might imagine
Yeah.
from the flow we saw down the other canals. So it just really doesn't take a lot down here. The models we did, the box culverts would improve that a little bit.
But not a lot.
It's not going to move like you saw coming down the Gypsy Canal.
When you remove the plugs at Don Patricio and Commodore, does that affect the flow at all?
Yes.
It does?
Yes. Yeah, the one at Lake Padre, that's the main. At the Don Patricio Bridge, that's the one that opens everything up back to the tidal exchange.
Got it. Interesting. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member. Board Member Vaughn.
Well, first I want to ask you a couple of questions, what your recommendation is. And looking at it, there's only one difference between 1 and 2, and that's the kayak passage. And there's no impact with 1. So what's the difference in the price? Do you know?
We haven't technically priced out the dredging and the clearing. I wouldn't think, I know there's a budgetary number put in place that the developer's asking to reduce to. It's $650,000. I don't think it would cost that much to do that, to do option 1, but depending on how far you dredge. Option 2 would be approximately $1 million, maybe $1.5 million.
And would you get pretty much the same result?
Yes, with the increased kayak, and you don't have to have kayak passage. You could reduce that cost to just maybe get a foot of air draft. And there's box culverts like that out there today. If you go down Whitecap Boulevard all the way to Caravel Street, there's a box culvert under that road not too many people know about. So you could flatten it out and just have a real low profile one and no vertical curve. So that could be done as well and reduce the cost.
So are you leaning towards option 1?
Option two.
You're
Yes,
leaning
I think the
towards
city
2.
should ultimately pursue that, but a phased approach. I think maybe option 1 now, short term to get some circulation going, and then option 2 in the long-term planning.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Board Member Pusley.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I kind of always wish you'd show a bigger picture here of the whole system, because the water movement throughout this area is a system. And as we found out when we opened up the Lake Padre, the scour is a good word. We had some scouring issues.
Yes, sir.
So if we do this, regardless of whether we clean this out, the existing pipes, or we put in box culverts, when we open up that pass finally, you can almost be assured that the water velocity in here will speed up. Is that not correct?
It would speed up, but all the modeling that myself and several other firms have now done, they don't show really a large potential for scour in this area. Under normal and spring tide events, of course, there's certain events, major storm events, that are going to be one-time deals that could potentially scour out.
Well, that's the storm event is what we have to look at.
Correct. Yeah.
Because that's what got us in trouble on the existing one. So I would just say, regardless of what we do here, we need to take that into consideration as to how that's going to impact the surrounding properties.
Thank you, Board Member. Board Member Hernandez.
Commissioner Pusley kind of touched on the question I had. Have you done the calculations on the velocities of the water that's going to be going through when you dredge it, or the box culverts?
Yes, in the end, but it's kind of a loaded question. Under what conditions, right? Normal tidal flows are less than 2 feet per second through there is what our model showed and what the other consultants' model showed that I read. During storm events, it could jump up to 4 or 5, maybe even 6 feet per second, major storm events.
Okay, so has any evaluation been done on the infrastructure around it that would, to his point, kind of address those kind of things?
Not to my knowledge, but it could be designed such that you make that connection lower, or smaller, I'm sorry, and thus restricting the flow there. And that way you'd get less passage of water that would affect anything downstream of there. So you choke it down, in other words.
Okay, because, you don't design a freeway for, midnight, right? You design it for rush hour.
Mm-hmm.
So to that point, you have to take that into consideration.
Yes.
So we don't run into the same problems we did in the past.
I agree.
If we're what are we trying to accomplish? Is it to have more water flow?
I think that's the objective, yes. That's what I've heard.
So your objective is to have more water flow, but not too much more water flow, so
Right.
you don't damage anything.
Right.
Sounds like you're trying to thread a needle.
It kind of is. There's a lot of discussions about the sea gate and things like that that could mitigate that, so.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Board Member. Board Member Pusley.
Yeah, sorry. I just, Councilman brings up a good point. Whatever we do with respect to changing the velocity of that water through that passage is going to impact your sedimentation rates. So we have to look at that. If you're going to slow the water down artificially, you're going to increase your sedimentation rates, which means you're going to defeat the purpose of what you're trying to do now. So I think you just need to look at that as a system, and we need to do a little engineering on how that's going to be impacted with the different water flows. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member. Okay, so it sounds like we've got 3 options presented to us. And if I'm picking through kind of the requests and the modification requests, it says the 600 or 650 for dredging. And so you're saying that correlates with option 1.
Correct. Let me clarify something if I might, though. I did this presentation just on my company's behalf to the city. The developer is requesting to reduce his scope to the 650 only. He's not recommending any other options here.
Sure.
Yes.
Totally understand. But for us today, we're on our agenda taking action on the request. And so that request takes us from project, ostensibly, what was project option 3, and if I'm tracking correctly, down to project 1.
Right.
But just judging by the conversation here, it sounds like the interest and the concern is placing a priority on ensuring the maximized water flow for the integrity of course, the structure and allowing the waters to move through. And it does, that's one of the options that this team has advised for, but that's not what we're voting on here quite today. So let me see. Would it be Arturo or Heather Could you speak to how we would move forward with that? Because we're, on here, it's asking to approve the request for amendments for the
Correct.
budget.
Yeah, and the request of the developer is requesting is to
Yes.
drop down from 2.7 to 650,000, which is a substantial decrease. Our models and the presentation, the way that is going to be shown today, reflects that $650,000. If there is any deviation from that, we would have to kind of rework the numbers.
We would have to rework.
Yeah.
So what we would need then is, one, a consensus from the board, and two, I do see that we have some members of ISAC in the audience. I don't want to put them on the spot, but, you know, we went through this last time when we were looking at the Seagate study, and I want to make sure that, you know, they're acknowledged for the conversation as well. And so we have two items. One, we're approving,
The request, yeah.
I'm sorry?
The request from the developer?
Yes.
And then the budget.
Yeah, and they're both 25, so.
Yeah.
We need to make sure we have all those numbers reworked for us before we can actually take an action item, right? But we would need direction.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so, if I'm judging the interest of the room correctly, it sounds like option one, while that's the quickest option, that's not necessarily the option that the board is most interested in moving forward with. So from what I can tell here is we would like to have this item brought back, looking at the numbers for option two. In the meantime, I would like to hear some input from the ISAC committee as well.
This again, because if
Because-
it's truly is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
Because that's in item 3, right? The options being proposed is item 3?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So are we on item 3?
I see Heather. Yes, so I know that we had talked about this before, and it's more just hearing their opinions.
So I guess really ISAC, because ISAC can't come and speak in front of the TIRZ
No.
board, and they can speak in front of the city council, they can't speak in front of the TIRZ board, and they have to have some type of resolution bringing them forward for the board to vote on to allow them to speak in front. They can't just come unless they're making public comment, not on behalf of ISAC, but on behalf of the individual person as a citizen.
I'm tracking. So just like when we discussed the item to pay for the hydrology study, and it kind of took the form as, are we going to pay for a hydrology study out of TIRZ? And we said, let's ask ISAC what their opinion is. It's not that they presented in front of us. We just wanted to hear their input.
So we can definitely take this to them at their next board meeting. This is not something that we've had them discuss, is this specific project.
Sure, totally understand. But now we're looking at really reworking with 3 very different options, and they're all on one project. Each option presents a very different dynamic to the houses in that area.
Yeah.
And so for me, I feel like the ISAC committee is a really good connection to the folks there, and they have that boots on the ground perspective.
So this item, so the Encantada project is not going to affect our 26 budget. This is something that the developer is asking to de-scope or change the scope on that. If the board chooses to today, what we could act on is some of the other requests.
Okay.
And not necessarily act on the Encantada request. We could take that to ISAC at their next meeting for discussion and input, and then we could bring something back. They can, basically we have to route it through council, but we can come back through and have that result from that meeting being presented at the next TIRZ 2 meeting.
And there's kind of 2 action items. I know what we had was the original budget, and that was option 3. What we're being proposed here would be option 1. What we were given, a rough estimate, was for option 2, but we don't have really a solid estimate on that.
Sure.
So that's kind of that second action item there.
So, but again, whether we do option 1, 2, or 3, that doesn't affect the 26 budget?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
you could still take action on some of the other requests that the developer has requested that would actually affect the 26 budget, defer that final, the decision on that project, specifically in Encantada, to a later date, and then we could work from there.
Perfect. Thank you for that direction. I appreciate you, Heather.
Okay.
Okay, I think that, I have 2 more comments here. I'll open for Board Member Chesney first.
Thank you. Could you put up the screen, because I don't know how
And you wanted to see the options?
yeah, well, I wanted to see his little checks and X's, because I'm not
it's the last
interested in
slide.
delaying traffic for 6 to 8 months for kayaks.
Yes,
personally.
sir.
I am, so if the consensus of the board is what the consensus of the board is, but I am 100% on option 1. I think that needs to be cleaned and dredged. The developer has done the study on this. They've come back and they believe that that's going to work the best. But to close that down, and the only difference is kayak passage allowed, that's a little bit of a struggle for me. I'm going to tell you, I think we've got to get the water flow going. I think we need to address this issue now. We're still in storm season. To close that down for 6 to 8 months for cars, and the only increase is that's a hard one for me. So I think we need to move forward with option 1 and get some and see what happens, because if we can always come back and do the second phase if the board wants to. So I'm ready to go with option 1. If the
So
rest
you're kind of proposing like 2 options here, a right now and then reevaluate.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that. That's because I think what you said is that you think the consensus is option 2. That's not my opinion. And if it is for the majority of the board, then so be it. But I think we need to get moving and see what happens when we do these. I think it's going to be a significant difference out there with the water circulation and with what goes on out there. But to spend another $400,000 or $500,000.
Very valuable comments.
That's a little rough. We need to get going on this. So I don't want to keep delaying on this. We need to do it. I mean, I thought we were going to make a motion and go forward with option 1 today. I think we should. We know what that price is, and let's get something. Let's do some action. Let's take action. We can't keep coming back and putting this on the agenda 15 different times and not do anything, and then we get hit with another storm.
Yeah.
Let's go, and then if we need to add later, we can add later. But let's get this done.
I appreciate that clarification. Thank you, Commissioner
Yes, ma'am.
Chesney. I did feel like earlier you were kind of proponent for the option 2, so thank you for that.
Gosh, no, I'm sorry if I don't know how, yeah, no, ma'am. I mean, I'm not saying maybe later down the road, but
Sure.
I want to go. We need to get this done. That we got problems out there that we need to address right now. Let's go.
Jeff, can you clarify, with option 1, it's really just kind of dredging the north and south to prevent this silt that's backing up as consistently as it is.
Correct.
What would be the lifespan of that dredging project? Is that something that dredging it's gonna retain that new shape for quite some time, or is that gonna fill back in pretty quickly? Or could you speak a little bit to that?
If you dredged it out either side, it'd be a magnitude of years before it filled in.
Okay.
I can't say exactly how long that would take, depending on how far out you dredge that canal. It looks like the entire canal is silted up about 2 feet. So at some point, you're going to transition back to that depth, and over time, sediment will fall into that, but it'll take a while.
And ideally, with that Commodore's opening, the overall water flow is going to
Should
be
be
much
moving.
different, right?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so with the size of those culverts that are in there right now, based on y'all's study, this is viable to move that water like we need it to?
It will circulate the water, yes. And
Okay.
it was doing that. It just, they weren't clear at the time, and but cleaning them without dredging it would not do anything. It would just
It's a
silt up.
fool's errand, yeah.
Very short order.
Okay, Board Member Hernandez.
You had mentioned earlier that the permit from the Corps of Engineers is held by the POA,
Correct.
correct? Do they not do regular dredging maintenance on the canals?
I can't really speak to that. I've heard of a few instances where they have done dredging, and they've in fact cleaned these culverts out before, but they've silted back up, is what I've been told. So,
So if they're responsible for dredging and cleaning these out, why are we doing it?
so what I've heard in the past is that, and I don't want to speak for Jeff Edmonds, but he did say that because this is right of way, what's underneath it was the city's responsibility.
Okay, so I understand the culverts, okay, but I mean,
Certainly, the canals are not the city's responsibility, no. They're privately owned by the POA.
I think we need to have maybe some discussions with POA to kind of coordinate with this, because I don't know if it's our complete responsibility to do this, if it's not even owned by the city.
Correct.
And we're basically
You're giving them that free dredging service, yes, by doing this project.
Okay. A lot of questions here, and I want to go forward with what we're doing and just move forward and then kind of coordinate this on the backside to see if we can get some coordination with POA, get some opinions from the ISAC, but still just move forward with what the option one and just so we can move on. We got other things to move on to. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Hernandez. I'm sorry, Board Member Guardo.
Okay, so this, I agree with Commissioner Chesney, and I do want to make a motion to move forward with option one. I think your recommendation was to move forward, if the board or the body agreed, with option two as a long-term plan, you called it. Long-term planning, option two, which would be $1 million, maybe $1.5 million, or who knows, I know you're just kind of throwing those numbers out. But now this issue here, so would it make sense to move forward? I think, Councilman, you just mentioned that. Would it make sense to move forward with option one? I'm with you, Commissioner Chesney. Let's get this ball going. But based on what was just brought up, yeah, Jeff, what do you think?
I think the conversation needs to be had with the POA on that.
But do we need, would it make sense to move forward with one anyway and then continue? Would that make sense? I don't know. Right, contingent upon. Let's make a motion on that then.
So we would need to wait till we're back in item 3 because this is a briefing, and then we can approve item 3. But it sounds like,
I see.
Especially back to Board Member Chesney's comments, we're in storm season. The longer we do delay the project, the more adverse potentially. Heather, is it possible to move forward with the project, and if we were to engage PIPOA and determine that the responsibility were to lie elsewhere, there be reimbursement, there be something forward so that we don't delay the project?
Yeah, so one of the things is, as of right now, the developer doesn't necessarily have a set timeline for this. We are transitioning from what was going to be a big project originally when we entered into the agreement with the developer to now more of a maintenance and dredging project. They don't have, so we're talking about trying to do it immediately. They don't have this slotted within their timeline to get this done immediately. And so we would need to work with the developer to see what their potential timeline would be for this. Again, we'd also probably need to look to see is how would we do the reimbursement for this? Is this normally when our projects for infrastructure, it is we reimburse once the project is completed. This is more of a maintenance project, so it's something that is a little bit different. So how do we reimburse? So there's a lot of questions to answer if this is something that we want to get done immediately, because this was not necessarily on their timeline yet.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
I'm going to go ahead to Board Member Pusley.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm fairly ambivalent about what we do here, and this is certainly Commissioner Chesney's neck of the woods, and I don't mean to sound like I'm disagreeing with his comment, but I will tell you from the engineering facts that we were provided in this presentation, option 2 for the future is your best option with respect to how you get water through this without having the problems of sedimentation building up back rapidly, because the comment about take several years for this to silt back up, that's based on the current hydrology of this system now. If we open up the other end of this through Lake Padre, it's going to change that formula drastically. So I'm just telling everybody that the decision you make here is going to be impacted by what you do in the future, and you have to look at this as a system and not just as a crossing of a 36-inch pipe under a ditch that hasn't changed in 10 years. So that's my only comment.
Thank you, Board Member. Board Member Chesney.
Board Member Hernandez brings up a great point, as I can't say this board member's Mayor Eduardo said. I think it's a really difficult call, and then the biggest picture question too is, what is a TIRZ project and what's a city project and what's a POA? I think we need some definition there too. I'm not even sure what projects at this point TIRZ takes on, the city takes on, since it's city right away, POA's involved. that probably needs to be a big picture discussion that we need to have on the next agenda to really clearly define, because it's really confusing. And again, the county's participating in this because we want to see the island grow and we want to see infrastructure grow. But at the same time, if these projects are just city projects that the county is subsidizing, we need to clearly know that and understand that and have that discussion as a commissioner's court too. So there's really a lot of sub-conversations that have to go on this, but Councilman Hernandez brings up a good point. I mean, I think we need to move forward on this because it's important, but we need to engage the POA on this too, because I get that they've only got so many finances, and that's what the TIRZ is for, is to help with these kind of projects too. So I'm not saying they should do it all. So I guess, as the mayor proposed, maybe some sort of contingent motion to move forward with. I'm still right now at this point, and I have no problem having disagreements, or that doesn't bother me a bit. I just think option one gives us a better option to go forward, and then to look at option two later, because we don't have to come back around. We've got a firm cost. We know what it's going to be. Now, as to Heather, what Heather addressed was, it's not in the developer's plan right now. So then, okay, do we switch it? Is it of an urgent enough nature? Do we just switch it out of their plan and we just take it on as a TIRZ, and it becomes a TIRZ project, and we just do it? We don't worry about I'm just throwing that out there. That's what, Heather's comments, somebody makes a new comment and it makes me make a new comment, right? Gil was right, and then Heather comes up and says that, and I go, well, okay, but if the developer doesn't have it in their plan now, but we really feel like it's crucial, then maybe we need to take it on as a TIRZ and just do it ourselves and take it out of their plan. And that's not a critique on the developer at all. I get it. They've got priorities too. But if we've got it in our budget and we can do it, and we know we need to do something, maybe we just take it on as our own project. Again, just food for thought.
Thank you, Board Member Scott.
So the way this was flowing today, we're gonna change the reimbursement on this specific item from 2.6 to 600, but it wasn't going to happen. It's not scheduled to happen, at least not this year. So I'm trying to figure out why. I guess we need to vote on it today because of the budget issue. I mean, so if it stays the way it's supposed to go, the developer's not going to do it for at least, we think, a year. So I don't know I'm trying to figure out what the rush is to do that.
So the developer had come and requested some amendments to the agreement, which was descoping some of those projects that they had found aren't going to be that they're not going to move forward with for various and sundry reasons. And then one of them was the Encantada Bridge, just because of the magnitude of, when it was first proposed, it seemed like a doable thing. As we've gotten further into it, option 3 is what was originally proposed, and there's a lot of complications there. So they'd come back and said, you know what, we could descope that down to include the dredging to get things flowing. But again, that is more of a maintenance thing versus a capital improvement thing. And so we wanted to do that in conjunction, because in addition to that descoping, they also had a request to change a payment schedule that had been laid out in the development agreement. So we brought all those forward as one item. We can definitely delay the descoping. It doesn't affect our budget right now, because those were future projects, and only consider the request to change the payment schedule, which does affect our 26 budget.
Okay, well that I get. I just I'm kind of think I'm with Commissioner Pusley that if we put the box culverts in and we do something, I mean, it's not going to silt up as fast as if we had just replaced with the normal culverts, right?
That is my understanding. I'm not
yeah, right.
That's not my area of expertise.
Sleep at Holiday Inn.
Express.
So, but we're talking about, I guess my point is, do we have to do this? Do we have to vote on this specific culvert issue today?
No.
And I think Councilmember Hernandez makes a good point. Let's have a conversation with POA, maybe get a sense where the ISAC, what they think about all this.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know that we have to do that.
Yeah. No, the amendments to the descoping of the projects is not as time sensitive as the request to change the payment schedule for the Commodore's Bridge.
Thank you, Heather, for making that very clear and understandable. Has there been any kind of discussion, if we moved forward with this proposal, option A, of what a timeline would look like? My thought process only being, and I hear what Board Member Chesney's saying, and I do agree with reevaluating potentially. However, since we do have an engineer that's engaged, that may be faster of a plot line, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm just curious, if there have been any kind of estimation thrown out there, or if there's a potential, if we descale the project, that it could be quicker.
So the only thing that really has been talked about was, it was in conjunction with removing of the dam, the earthen dam there at Lake Padre, the opening of the Commodore Bridge. I think when we had gotten all agencies together to talk about it, there had been a discussion of doing some dredging, and maybe not to this extent, but some dredging over at the Encantada Bridge to open up that so that we would have that flow and across the 3 different areas. We had not at that point determined whether or not who was going to take on that cost, whether that was a PIPOA, whether that was a city, whether that was a TIRZ. We had just talked in general about the fact of one needing to do that most likely prior to opening up the Commodore's Bridge along with the earthen dam. So that is the only conversation that had been had. It had not been had with the TIRZ board. It had not been had necessarily with the, PIPOA was in the room, but there had not been a commitment on who would take that cost on. And so that's the only conversation as far as timeline and potential action.
So at this point, we're potentially changing the scope of the job, but we still don't have any kind of when would that happen?
Exactly.
At all?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. So I see no other comments on this presentation, so we will move back to, and I think Arturo, there he is, back to agenda item number 3, which is the motion approving the amendment, and I believe you have a presentation on those because there's a couple.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
That's the one. Yes, so essentially, we've already talked about this, but there are 3 major requests that the developers asking as far as the agreement goes. And here on the slide is you'll see the total number of projects that have been approved by the board towards the developer. So it equates to $25.5 million, but again, as we go through this, I'll explain to where the reductions are and what that would mean eventually. So as we talked about, the major impact to the budget, or actually the impact to the budget that would be for FY26 is the structure of payment for the Commodore's Bridge. Originally, the agreement does state that it would be in 3 equal payments of $3.06 million, starting in fiscal year 26 and then falling to 27 and 28. However, through conversations with the developer, we've kind of met in a medium ground, and we're now requesting from the board to do a payout of a $4 million payout next year, with a decrease of 3.5 in the following year, and then paying off the rest through 1.7 in the fiscal year 28. This still remains the $9.2 million payout. Again, it's just a little bit more front-loaded. We also received news that the bridge opened up a lane back in, July 8th, if I'm not mistaken. So they did open up a lane already, and this is already in the final phases before it opens up later on this year. Now, one of the things that we have been, of course, talking about is the reduction or the request of the $2.7 million. That, of course, like I said, it is within the approved list of items that the developer was approved through the contract. So they are requesting a $2.7 million reduction to a $650,000 payout. However, I do want to point out, just like Heather mentioned, that this does not have an immediate impact to the budget, at least not for fiscal year 26. It will, however, whenever they do choose to, if they do choose to go through this dredging, when that would impact the budget. And then the final request is kind of bunched up into 2 of them, the Aquarius Street Box Culvert and the Aquarius Street Water Quality Circulation Aqueduct. The developer, after through some assessment, they realized that this is not feasible, so they are requesting to remove this, and as mentioned, eventually impacting their overall 25.05 agreement. So that does change a little bit if the of course, the reduction of the 2.7 to 650,000 does take place, and the reduction of this, the Aquarius Street Box Culvert and the Aquarius Street Water Quality do get reduced. Their agreement does see a reduction of up down to $22 million with $50,000, as opposed to the current 25.5. So with that said, those are the three requests that the developer is asking for. And as I mentioned, the only one that has a impact to the budget is going to be the payment schedule of Commodore's Bridge. With that, I open it up for questions.
Thank you, Arturo. Could you go back to your second to last slide about the Aquarius?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm reading that last bullet point, a developer. So they're just saying that those two, with everything how it's progressed, they're non-essential any
Correct.
longer.
Yeah, correct. And they can be removed, yes.
They can be removed, okay. I have a comment from Board Member Pusley.
Yeah, I guess my question is, why do we want to front load the payout? I mean, that gets our money out faster than the developer. Why would we want to do that?
Yeah, originally it was anticipated to not have the project completed, but they are working a lot faster. And as I mentioned, the project is nearing completion in a sooner time, and therefore would assist the developers to take care of these expenses as they've completed faster.
Yeah, but that still doesn't answer why we would want to front load this with the money. I mean, the project was designed with this payout to begin with. Why would we want to change that? I'm just asking a question, so thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Chesney.
So let me make sure I'm clear, and it's a good question by Commissioner Pusley. So are they asking for more because you said, because they've done it faster and they need to get reimbursed faster? Right?
Correct, yes.
So in other words, they've just worked quicker. So the answer to his question, I think what you might have said would have been they worked quicker, and so they're out of pocket. They've already paid this for this money or will, and we're just reimbursing them quicker.
Correct.
Right?
Correct, yes.
So does it, and how does it affect the collections, the money, how it all rolls over, that kind of thing? Will it hurt anything if we pay it out quicker since they've done the work? Because again, to reiterate, we're not giving them anything up front. We're reimbursing them for public improvements, right?
Correct. That is correct, yes.
Okay, and will it have a negative impact on the budget in any way?
No, we've been able to structure the budget so that it is not, I mean, obviously the payment is, stronger on the first end, but we've been able to schedule it out so we can still take care of the other projects on the other portions of the TIRZ.
But this is not them, they're not asking for money up front. They are just asking for reimbursements because that we've got a developer that actually worked quicker than they said they would. That's pretty interesting. That's great. And then my other question is, because we kind of got stuck on the Encantada. So this whole agreement is to revise the payment schedule for the Commodore's Drive Bridge project, modify the payment and scope of work for the Encantada Mobility project, de-scope the Aquarius Street Box Culvert Water Exchange and Aquarius Street Water Quality Circulation Aqueduct products. What's the water flow of all of this? In other words, it's not just Encantada. This amendment is doing all of these things, right? So I'm assuming someone has looked at that to see what has been done or what that does for the water flow, either by all of this, like what they did at Commodore's, what we're talking about in Encantada, when they de-scope Aquarius. Has engineering looked at that to see if that's going to improve the water flow overall by doing all of this?
That was my question to begin with.
I get it. I know. I'm trying. I know. I'm going back. I know. So is that right? I mean, you gave us the presentation on Encantada, but how does the Encantada tie into this entire motion?
Yeah, Arturo, I think, thank you,
Yeah.
Jeff.
So we did, Jeff Coyme, LJ Engineering, we're the engineer of record for that project for the developer as well, the Commodore's Bridge.
Okay.
Just a data point before I answer your question, it's about 85% complete, so they have funded about $8 million of that bridge already.
How much?
$8 million.
Okay.
And the anticipated completion is September this year. So to answer your question about circulation, yes, it does help the overall circulation of the island. And in fact, it takes pressure off of that one canal connection that was problematic in the past with the opening by splitting the flow in two different directions there. And Encantada with box culverts would remove a little bit more of that pressure to the opposite direction as well.
So this entire motion in its entirety, if the board was to recommend this today, would show a marked improvement of water flow because of everything that we're talking about doing. Is that
Correct.
Is that an accurate statement? And I think that's important to know. We could still make this motion, pass this, and then go work on the devil in the details, like who needs to pay for it and what kind of project it is and things like that, because this is just an amendment to the tax increment reinvestment zone, agreement in how the money's being reallocated, right? So that was just kind of, I think I got stuck just talking about Encantada, and we forgot to talk about how the rest of this was going to be effective. So this whole effect, you're saying as a professional engineer, right? Your
Yes, sir, Brent.
opinion is this is going to improve the water flow by doing all of this.
Correct. That canal
That's a good thing.
Commodores connects to the north is currently stagnated. There's aerators in it that are required by TCEQ to increase oxygen levels. Those wouldn't be necessary anymore because you're going to get that Gulf water exchange through there.
Okay.
So yes, it would improve that direction as well.
Okay, well, just for discussion purposes, not to cut anyone off, I would make a motion that we approve this.
Second.
And then go back and look at some of the detail that Councilman Hernandez very astutely brought up. Thank you.
Heather, if we move forward on this as written, can we still accomplish the timeline kind of you articulated earlier? We can pass this and then go kind of work backwards or behind the scenes like Board Member Chesney's saying.
Yes, yes. So actually, no, this would not have to go back to council. Oh, it does? No, it does not, because the TIRZ board is able to approve modifications to the contracts. So it doesn't have to go back to council. So that's set. So, and as long as we have, if the board decides that they are going to approve the modification of the payment schedule, then the next item is the budget. And so we'll modify that in the budget so that the board would approve the budget reflecting that modification of the payment schedule.
And as far as if we approve this and it's three parts, but it's basically two, Encantada and Aquarius.
Yes.
And then going behind the scenes, like Mr. Chesney said, engaging the PIPOA.
Yes.
Delineating the jurisdiction of the three entities involved. We can pass this today and still be able to do that.
Yes.
Okay, so no
Yes.
issue there. Thank you for that clarification.
Of course.
Okay, I have a couple more comments and then we have a motion and I think a second. Board Member Hernandez.
Okay, Heather, let me understand. So what we're looking to approve here is not built into the budget as it is right now.
I think we have a secondary slide that will be shown, that we show the modified. budget.
So looking at our revenues is about 6.4 million, right, coming in?
Yes.
And so looking at all the projects for next year, your ending balance is supposed to be $900,000.
Yes.
So if we advance the payment, that's an extra $1 million that they're wanting next year.
That is correct, yes.
And then what are you saving from the La Encantada? Is there savings there?
So it's not in 26, so that was not something that was in 26 budget.
So where is this money going to come from?
So it will come from, we actually, within the budget, we do have a revised forecast. We had shown that we were going to spend the total $250,000 for the Packery Channel kind of ongoing maintenance. We are not going to be spending that much by the end of the year. And so $200,000 of that is rolling into fund balance. Then this will increase it by $1 million, so it will leave the estimated fund balance at a little under $200,000 budgeted.
Okay, that's pretty tight.
It is, but this is all project-based, and so it's not like we have personnel or anything else within this. We also have the ability to, if for whatever reason our revenues don't come in, we're very conservative on the revenues, but if they don't come in as we planned, there are things that we can, because all of our agreements do say that it is subject upon fund availability, so if there is something where we don't get in the funding, we can always, change the payment schedules out a little bit on that too, so. We
Okay.
have safeguards in place.
All right, I
Understood.
when you looked at the budget, and so
Understood.
if you only have a balance of 900,000, they want
Yes.
$1 million.
Exactly. Well, we'll have, as I said, once we change
Okay.
that forecast, it'll be the 1.1 million, basically, so.
Okay, so on presentations like this in the future, if you can include some of the financials as to what the impact to the budget
Sure,
is, that
sure.
way we can see it, and I won't have to go to another item to go look at it.
Of course.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, Board Member Scott.
And the things that you think you're going to live and see, the bridge in Encantada on Commodore, sorry, the bridge at Commodore is not one of them. Thank you very, very much for taking this on. I think it is an exceptional project. I think it's an exceptional improvement to the island. And if you got ahead of the curve and we reimburse you, then that's marks a happy camper.
So what I would like to also add is, while the work was accomplished on time, basically, when the agreement was first agreed to, along with the payment schedule, this was I think a $3 million project. This is now a $9 million project. So that is one of the other reasons why the developer is asking to see if we can front load this reimbursement a little bit. This did come in higher than what they anticipated, and so it is a large outlay of capital that they had agreed to a 3-year payout, but they are just asking to see if we would consider paying a little bit more of that out front, just so they can continue recouping their cost.
Got it. I was just gonna make the motion. You made the motion, but I do want to say I still think the box culvert's a better long-term plan, but that's a deliberation for another day. Nothing what we do today impacts that deliberation, correct? Okay.
That is
good.
correct.
Good to go. Yep. Thanks, ma'am.
Okay, I think I have a motion and second, and this is on item 3. That's the approving of the amendment. So are we able to cast our votes electronically? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We'll move on to.
Ms. Campos, were you going to vote? I don't know if she's there, just to be seen and heard to vote.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Okay, I don't hear her, so.
So we'll move on to item 4, which is the budget. I know we do have a briefing on the mobility plan as well, but we've got about 10 minutes before the next ceremony.
Okay.
I think that gives us plenty of time for the budget portion, if there's not a lot of questions, so we'll try. Just be mindful of the time.
Absolutely.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, and just to Councilman Hernandez's point, there are 2 slides at the end that reflect any changes that would have happened with the approval of this project. So budget overview, just real quickly, I'm going to breeze through it. We are expecting a $2.8 million fund balance reserve starting on to next year. And just as Councilman Hernandez mentioned, we are expecting a $6.4 million revenue stream with expenditures of $8.3 million, which currently, or at least the way that it's going to be presented for now, does give us a fund balance of $903,000. Again, this number will change at the end of the presentation. The breakdown of the revenue, with the majority coming in from the city at $4.8 million, 1.4 coming in from the county, and of course we do not have any participation from Del Mar in this particular TIRZ. We do have $113,000 coming in from the interest and investment income, which again is what equates to the $6.4 million revenue stream.
2065 a mistake?
Which one? Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry about that. It should be fiscal year 26, not 2065. I apologize for that. We're not that far ahead yet. So the Whitecap development, again, through this, there will be a change, but the Whitecap development was expected to have a $3.1 million payout. Again, that will be revised at a later slide. A $5,000 payout for administration. That's just your typical, administrative fees and all that. The Packard Channel will see a $262,000 expense, and the transfer to CIP is a $4.8 million expense with a transfer to general funds, $186,000. Again, the transfer to general funds is just to cover the administrative fees of legal staff, and so on and so forth. Now, the breakdown of this, the Preserve Pond interconnectivity, this one is one of the completed projects that the developer has submitted, and this is one of the ones that falls in the incremental payout, so therefore it's only paid based on what the increment allows, and this particular one is only $40,000. Commodore's Bridge, again, the original request was for $3.06 million. Again, this will be changed at a later slide to reflect that additional payment. The administration fees stays the same at $5,000. Packard Channel maintenance, $262,000, and the transfer to CIP does include these 3 projects. The Packard Channel capital repairs, Sand Dollar Street, and North Padre Island seawall improvements. Now, so what did change? The Whitecap development, that one, we do see the preserve effluent lines, as I mentioned, is one of the ones that we are now completing, or not completing, I'm sorry, that we're paying out in fiscal year 2025. And we will be adding the preserve ponds interconnectivity project for 2026. Under the operating transfer to CIP, from last meeting, we are adding the Sand Dollar Street, and we're also adding the North Padre Island seawall improvements for a total change of $3.5 million in difference. Through ISAC, the recommendations, they are requesting a resolution in support of the following Padre Island development plan projects. Some of these include the Village Park Skate Park, the Packery Channel Boat Ramp repairs and ADA access, the Paper Street development, mobility plan implementation, phase 1 and phase 2. That was going to be a presentation later on, but may be moved. And then the Whitecap effluent water reuse expansion. Now, so some of the ones that are currently in the plans for CIP for next year are, of course, Paper Street development. That is something that is going to continue on. Right now, they are at 30% design, but it is now in the budget to continue and build out that street. And also the Packery Channel boat ramp repair and ADA access are also included in the CIP project for next year. Now, again, this is the revised version. What is that impact, and what is the new number? The biggest change, of course, is through the Commodore's Bridge. Instead of that $3 million payout, we now see a $4.04 million payout. And this reflects back to a reduced fund balance at the end of fiscal year 2026 of $129,712. So as mentioned earlier, it does make it a little bit more tighter. So. With that, I do conclude the presentation, and I open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Arturo. I have a comment from Board Member Chesney.
Quick, from my perspective, being a commissioner now, it's so much easier for me to get my teeth around. Not that I don't mind helping y'all build streets, but like that skate park, great idea. I think that's a community project that we could all sink our teeth into, the bridges, those kind of things. So I love that skate park that's in there. You went through it real quick. There was probably some other ones too.
I apologize.
Pardon?
I apologize for.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And that was really it. So I think the skate park's a great project that's needed on the island.
Yes, absolutely. Do we have more comments on the proposed budget for? No, okay. With that, then this is a resolution approving. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Ms. Campos, are you going to vote? I'm sorry, just try one more time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. For the interest of time, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and move the presentation on the mobility update to the following meeting.
Sure.
Okay, and then having no other business, we will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.